Hello, everyone. I'm Billy.
And I'm Kamraun. Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast, home of your two favorite professional digressors and the creators of the Malazan Brotherhood.
Today we'll be discussing Book 6, Chapter 18 of Gardens of the Moon, a novel in the Malazan Books of the Fallen. This is part 2 of our coverage of this chapter.
This podcast series is intended to be a companion to reading or listening to the books set in the Malazan universe. It's not a book review, and it is definitely not intended to be a replacement to reading the books. Both Billy and I believe this to be the best fantasy story ever written and want to share our love of the series with you.
We will be covering these books in a linear fashion. There will be spoilers for those who have not read the books. We'll try not to spoil anything prior to us covering the portion of the respective book. But knowing me and my big mouth, I'm sure to spoil something for someone, so in advance, I'm sorry. Not like the Bamir gold mine after releasing 34 million gallons of cyanide in the Three Rivers in the Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania region kind of sorry. I sincerely mean I'm sorry when I issue my deeply sincere I'm sorry.
Is there a website you go to that lists the top environmental disasters and you're just going down the list? Is that what's going on?
No, I was going off what I remembered off those first two. And the first one is actually from, of course, a South Park reference to BP, to their episode of Coon and Friends. So it just kind of became a thing. And so, yes, today I did pull up a timeline of major environmental disasters. Yes. This includes India's Bhopal cyanide gas leak. Check this one out. This is disgusting. Kills at least 4,000 people, sickens an estimated 500,000 people, and leaves survivors with numerous health issues. This is from a Union Carbide disaster in Bhopal, India.
How long ago was that?
84.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. 2 years before the Chernobyl, of course.
All right. A quick warning, today's episode may contain references to acts of past or future violence, but will contain no actual violence.
Now, our show is that was amazing. Our show is listener supported. That was quite nice. Our show is listener supported. If you'd like to support us, we would really deeply, sincerely appreciate that. And you can do so by visiting our Patreon link at our website, horsefrogproductions.com.
Also, we would really like to hear from you. Send any feedback or comments to contact@horsefrogproductions.com. All right, Chapter 18, Part 2. Down at the bar, Perrin refilled his tankard for a third time. He was pondering Rake's statement on his luck turning. Since coming to Genebacchus, he'd found 3 friends. This was unexpected and new to him. Precious even. But Tattersail was dead, reincarnated as a child. Talk was dead, and now Call was likely to join that list. He noted a crack between 2 planks in the table. He thought about what Rake had said, then stood and withdrew Chance from its scabbard. The few people in the bar watched him and grew silent. Scurv stood watching him from behind the bar and reached for his club. I wonder what kind of stuff Scurv has had to police using that club over the years.
What's all this then? Sorry. Can you imagine a big fella? I got this like old-timey ex-football, not football, but you know what I mean, like soccer player, English.
Oh.
Some big English dude that's like, that would just pull
like
your head off.
Bullet Tooth Tony?
You know? Dude, Bullet Tooth Tony.
Who was actually a professional soccer player at one point.
Do you know about his history, right? Yeah, footballer.
He would get in fights, wouldn't he?
Yeah, like elbow to the face kind of guy. Yeah, it's like, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what his actual name is.
I can't remember what his name is.
From Snatch, the character in Snatch, yeah.
I'm ashamed of myself. I used to know his name.
Now, for me, Scurv looks like Argus Filch in Hogwarts from the Harry Potter movies. He walks around the halls with the cat Mrs. Norris. I got a picture of him right here for you. But that's how I picture Scurv. He's kind of old, curmudgeonly, long hair.
Oh, it's Vinnie Jones. Good gracious, Vinnie Jones.
Yeah, Vinnie Jones is the
Vinnie
footballer.
Jones. But yes, I could see him looking a lot like that, just kind of a little bit bigger. But I know that guy. I don't know him from, because I've never seen any of the Harry Potter stuff. But I know David Bradley.
Okay,
there's an FX show called The Strain that Guillermo del Toro had written the series of books with another guy, and I've never read them. But it was an interesting kind of fast pace. Imagine a vampire outbreak like a zombie plague.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of more like they're more like rabid, bloodthirsty animals, but they're vampires.
Okay.
And spread like a virus, and but it's a pretty entertaining show. And he's one of the main characters. He's like the hunter. Part of the hunters.
Does he look the same?
He looks older because he is older. Okay. But it's probably about the same time period, though. I would put him at about the same age. They just have him all white haired out.
Okay.
And so
that's even better. Looking more, probably even more accurate.
Yes, it's very entertaining. It's very bloody. I mean, I wouldn't watch it with your kids because it's pretty gnarly, but it was made for
No,
TV.
I'm just saying
but,
his appearance in that show is probably
oh yeah,
more appropriate as
oh
Skur
yes,
in that case.
yes,
You know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's more. Yeah, he's rough looking.
Perrin noticed none of the people around him, focusing on chance instead. He set the point of the sword in the crack and brought the weapon vertical. He worked it back and forth until he had wedged it halfway down the blade. I'm cringing at this because you never do something like this with a blade, but he wants to intentionally break it.
Yeah, yeah.
Still cringing.
Yeah.
Perrin then sat down and reached for his beer. The crowd relaxed and began to mutter amongst each other in confusion. Perrin swallowed a gulp of beer and thought, what had Rake said? When your luck turns, break the sword, or give it to your worst enemy. He doubted Opon would accept it, so that meant breaking it. And it's interesting that he views Opon as his worst enemy among all the entities he has encountered so far.
Yeah.
I would think Lucine would have rated higher, and she's not an entity, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, but she is as far as he's concerned.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right.
And but Opon has actually been pretty cool to him, especially when you consider the fact that he pulled the lad, which is bad luck, into Dragnapur.
Right. How do you not immediately get dealt with after he gets out of Dragnapur?
Right. So it's like they're actually being pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you would expect some crazy snake to bite Perrin on the plane or something like immediately after he comes out.
Yeah. It's like he like stepped down and put his foot down. The minute he comes on the Reeve plane, steps down, puts his foot, gets bit by a snake, falls backward into a punchy stick pit, and then falls into a Bengal tiger pit after getting out of the punchy pit. You know,
quite the picture there.
Yeah, it's just like wow. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would expect as payment for yanking that dude into Dragnapur.
Yeah,
so as far as I'm concerned, Opon has actually been pretty chill with this guy.
Yeah,
he's been bad lipping them a lot.
Yeah, he thought that the sword had been with him for a long time. He'd only used it once in battle, and that had been against the Hound. He's forgetting when it saved him when he was fighting the Reeve that one time.
Yes, nice catch.
Yeah,
very nice catch.
He's not appreciating.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah,
no, he's not.
It basically danced in front of their blades for him.
Yeah,
or their lance heads rather.
Yeah, very nicely done too. Nice catch.
Thank you. He faintly heard the words of his childhood tutors. Those whom the gods choose, 'tis said, they first separate from other mortals by treachery, by stripping you from your spirit's lifeblood. The gods will take all your loved ones, one by one, to their death. And as you harden, as you become what they seek, the gods smile and nod. Each company you shun brings you closer to them. 'Tis the shaping of a tool, son, the prod and pull. And the final succor they offer you is to end your loneliness, the very isolation they helped you create. Doesn't this sentiment sound familiar to how extremists radicalize people to get them to join their cause? You know, they isolate somebody and then they give them a home where they feel welcome.
Yeah. It's very. Have you seen Homeland?
Yeah. I watched season 1. I didn't continue on.
I liked the first couple, but I didn't care much. But very much what they did to that fella.
Mm-hmm.
That where they had to do all that horrible stuff, but then the savior to get him to join their side is the guy that's doing this to him appears as the friend to stop that, to succor them and provide other things. Now but that whole quote there above that kind of reminds me in a mildly inappropriate way of a quote from Blackadder. Did you ever watch Blackadder?
Yes.
Much. Okay. But Melchett says, as private parts to the gods are we. They play with us for the sport. So it's very much how this world is. It's like it's a nice euphemism in there too. But
it's like the gods' giant sim. The game The Sims.
Yes. It's oh my good gracious, that's what it is. Oh my word!
Oh,
you've pulled the blinds, or what? You've pulled the blinders off.
That reminds me of a story I saw online one time. I don't know if it was real or not, but this guy was playing The Sims, and he was telling of a story. He said he made a house, and he made a basement in the house, and he put this guy down in there, and this guy lived only in the basement, and he got really good at painting. And he called him the painting troll. And then he had a family move into the house above, and the painting troll was so good at painting that they would sell the paintings for a lot of profit, and then the family benefited from that, and they never knew that the painting troll existed in the basement. pretty
That's
dark
amazing.
story.
It's a really dark story. I love it, man. Well, I'm that guy that always wonders. It's like I know you've always had to wonder. It's like, where are all the Marios? It's like, is there a pit
Oh
full
my
of these
gosh.
like billions of Marios hanging down in there? It's in the infinite pit of Mario, or
Mm.
in the video game land, is there like some pit where
Have you
these forgotten
seen
characters lived?
what was that Christopher Nolan movie, The Prestige? You seen that?
Yes.
Reminiscent of that. Those are
Oh,
the
yeah.
Marios.
Yeah. Oh, my word. That's quite brilliant, sir. Nicely done, sir. That's, oh,
This
my
is real
word. That's
dark.
horrifying.
Mario just got real
That's
dark.
Mario just took a real dark turn, dude.
I don't want to say much more for the people that haven't watched that movie. If you haven't
Yeah,
seen it by
yeah.
now, go watch
Dude.
it. It's awesome.
It's fantastic, dude.
Yeah.
You got Batman and Wolverine. What can I say?
Oh, I see,
Yes.
I see what you're saying. You got Batman. Well, the
Oh, yeah.
actors.
Yeah,
I
Batman,
got you.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Perrin thought to himself, "Never get noticed, boy." He wondered if the shaping had begun and scowled. Had he been responsible for taking Cull's life by creating a friendship with him? Was his presence enough to seal Cull's doom? He whispered, "O Pawn, you've a lot to answer for, and answer for it you shall." He then set his tankard down and reached for his sword.
Get a bit paranoid. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't earned it.
You talking about him taking responsibility potentially for Cull's situation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is everything attached to me? Is it all my fault and all of Pon's fault? It's like, well,
Yeah.
it's like you're being a bit paranoid here. It's like, but you have earned it. I'm not saying you haven't earned a good amount of paranoia. Being killed will do that to you. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know if this is all Pon's orchestration.
Yeah, I was coming at it from the angle of that's a really dark thought for him to think that anybody he gets close to, if anything happens to them, is his fault.
Right. And that'd be that'd be a really nice way to look at things.
Yeah, but I agree with the sentiment. For him to think that way, I mean, he does have a little bit of experience. He does say he hasn't really had an opportunity to get close to that many people, and the 3 people that he's gotten close to, 2 of them have died, and one of them
That's true.
is about to die.
Yes. And like I say, it's earned.
Yeah, that's his life experience up to this point, right? Kalam was climbing the steps to the Phoenix Inn. He again noticed a feeling that unseen eyes were fixed on him. He'd felt the sensation 4 times since coming within sight of the Phoenix Inn. His claw training had taught him to identify this. This is the 4th mention or indication that something otherworldly is going on in this area, in this chapter.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not just, and I forget that it's not just him. We had a relative in Mies, or was it, I forget which one was in that room spotting it, but, this is like last week. This is like we're waiting before the OK Corral or the Quick of the Dead kind of setting. All the players are getting to town, getting ready for the big showdown. So there's a real pregnant feeling in the air. It's got to be a real heavy vibe going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like when the tornado warning is there and the sky's green and you can kind of feel the air is a little feverish.
Yes. Oh, yes. Another reason to move to the hill country is that there's 7 to 15 tornadoes in Dallas a year. Here, there's one about every 5 years, maybe 10 years.
Okay. So just have to worry about the scorpions. But outside
And
of
the
that,
fires. And the
fires.
wildfires.
Okay. Check. Okay.
Rattlesnakes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, rattlesnakes, yeah. The other thing was the situation that happened with Surratt. That's also kind of in this vicinity because it's only about 3 blocks away.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Very nicely said.
Heeding such warnings had kept Kalam alive, but he hadn't felt a feeling of malice. Instead, it had felt like amused curiosity. It was as if the entity knew who he was and seemed unconcerned by his presence. Kalam shook himself, then entered the bar. As soon as he stepped inside, he felt something was wrong. He surveyed the scene and noticed everyone was watching a man at the bar. He could see a sword thrust through the table, and the man had a hand on the sword's grip. The man seemed oblivious to everyone around him. Kalam took 6 steps and came to the near end of the counter. He frowned when he thought he recognized the man. He wondered if it was a trick of the light. He said, "No, it isn't," out loud, which startled the barkeep. He surveyed the crowd and noted they were all locals. He'd have to take the risk. Kalam felt tension swell in his neck and shoulders as he strode directly to the man. The man was moments away from snapping the sword's blade. Kalam grabbed an empty chair in his path and slammed it down in front of the man. The man's startled eyes settled on Kalam. In a low rumble, Kalam said, "Your God-given luck's holding, Captain. Sit down." Perrin had a confused and frightened expression on his face. He let go of the sword and sank into his seat. Kalam sat down and leaned forward across the table. He whispered, "What's all this drama, anyway?" Perrin asked, "Who are you?" Behind them, conversations resumed in the crowd, loud with confusion. Strange people show up to the bar acting crazy. I'm sure the locals will be talking about it for a long time.
Right. It happens all the time here, I'm assuming.
Kalam said, "Ain't you guessed? Corporal Kalam, 9th Squad, Bridge Burners. The last time I saw you, you was recovering from 2 fatal knife wounds." Perrin's hands shot out and grabbed Kalam's shirt. Kalam was too surprised to react. Perrin said, "Is your squad's healer still alive, Corporal?" Kalam said, "What? Alive? Yeah, sure. Why not? What's..." Perrin snapped, "Shut up. Just listen, soldier. Bring him here. Now. No questions. I'm giving you a direct order, Corporal." Perrin let go of Kalam's shirt and said, "Now move." Kalam almost saluted, but caught himself in time. That training kicks in, man.
Oh, I know it. And I like how Perrin all of a sudden just jumped up and became a captain real quick.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Kalam whispered, "As you command, sir." Perrin glared at Kalam's back until he disappeared through the door. Then he surged to his feet. He called out, "Innkeeper, the black man will be showing up in a few minutes with company. Send them up to Call's room on the double. Understood?" Scurv nodded. Perrin walked to the stairs. When he reached them, he glanced at the sword, then said, "And nobody touch that sword." He glared at everyone in the room, and none seemed inclined to challenge him. Perrin gave a sharp, satisfied nod and ascended the stairs. And I'd like to echo your sentiments. I love to see him taking the role of captain without so much as a second thought.
I know.
He wouldn't have been this confident when he arrived in Pale.
Oh, no. He was still trying to get his feet under him there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is a very, I like it. All of a sudden, it just clicked.
Yeah, absolutely. Once he climbed the stairs to the first floor, Perrin walked to the last room on the right side of the hallway. He entered without knocking to find Salty and the surgeon sitting at a table in the room. Call lay unmoving in the bed, covered by a blanket. The surgeon informed Perrin that the infection had moved too far along. Perrin asked if Call was still breathing. The surgeon told him he was, but it wouldn't continue for much longer. The wound was too high on the leg to be able to solve the problem with an amputation. Even then, the infection had spread through all of him. He apologized. Perrin told the man to leave. The surgeon bowed and made to leave. Perrin asked how much he owed the man for his services, and the surgeon frowned at Salty and said, "Why, nothing, sir. I failed." That's interesting. I imagine that would be a tough living if you lost patients and didn't get paid for your efforts.
Right? Imagine our healthcare system if it was run like that. It'd be a completely different game.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But they'd be good, though. At least we'd have a good, at least I would hope we'd have a better one. It's like you would have better hospitals and worse hospitals. Because you know, I've heard a comedian talk about the fact that some doctor out there's lots of doctors out there that we know are the guys that passed with a 70, you know?
Yeah.
So so does that make them bad doctors?
Yeah, there are bad doctors. Okay, so within any cohort of humanity, and this goes beyond humanity, but you're familiar with the 80-20 rule?
No.
Have you ever heard of it? Okay.
I have an 80-20 rule for my store in my job, but it's not the same thing.
Well, it's a similar principle in that 20% of inputs feed 80% of outcomes. And there's a number of different examples of this, but let me give you some that relate to this story. So in the NBA, 20% of the players score 80% of the points.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. In a workforce, similar type thing. 20% of the workers generally do about 80% of the work.
Right.
Okay.
I see that.
So
I agree with that.
When you look at doctors, they're just like any other part of humanity.
Sure.
There's going to be good ones, and there's going to be bad ones, and there's going to be ones that just get by.
Right. Yeah.
They're not all just because they went to 15 years of school and went to residency and all this amazing at their jobs. Some people are just getting by.
Right. But what I'm saying is, I'm assuming that somebody that just got by with a 70 in school could possibly become a better doctor through time, through experience.
If
you would
there's
hope.
passion there and they're doing continued learning, absolutely, anybody can improve.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just kind of curious. But I think that would be an interesting way to run things here, though.
Yeah, just
You don't
from
get
the
paid. I'm
perspective
sorry they
of-
died. I'm sorry
Yeah,
they died. You don't
but
get
I mean,
paid.
in a lot of, the human body is so complex, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was saying. Is like, I don't know that it's fair to this cutter. He spent his time.
No, he needs
coming here to
get
try to
paid
help.
something.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
He needs the plumber. It's like a plumber, you know.
So you're
The
saying
plumber
there should
gets
be like
paid
a
for the
bare
hour.
minimum that they get paid,
Yes.
but then they get a bonus
No,
if
no,
they
no, no, no.
survive?
No, plumber. Are you kidding me? Plumbers get. What I'm talking about is they get the full hour if they're there for 5 minutes or they're there for
Right,
an hour. They get
but
paid
if
for
we're
the full
talking
hour.
about redesigning the healthcare system around
Oh,
success.
oh.
It's like, are you saying there's a base level of pay and then there's a bonus if they survive? Is that like the
Oh
new
my gosh! Don't ask me
payment
how to run
structure
that
you're
thing. I'm not the guy to figure this out. I barely make it through my own life.
You know what? People would game that system. They would temporarily heal them to get the bonus or whatever, and then
Right.
the person would come back and it'd be a different diagnosis, and they'd heal them for that and get the other bonus.
Absolutely.
People will always find a way to cheat. You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're not going to solve the world's problems here, Billy. All right, let's move on.
No. Well, I know. Move along. Move along. It was fun to think about for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Salty joined Perrin at the bedside and wiped tears from her face, but said nothing. After a moment, she couldn't take it any longer, and she too left. Perrin pulled up a stool and sat down with his elbows on his knees. He was unsure how long he sat there as he stared at the floor. The door slammed open and caused him to stand up. A bearded man with gray eyes stood in the doorway. His gaze was hard and cold. Perrin asked if he was Mallet, and the man shook his head and walked inside. Kalam appeared behind him with another man. Mallet saw Call on the bed and quickly walked over to him. The bearded man quietly said, "I'm Sergeant Whiskey Jack. Pardon my directness, sir, but what in Hood's name are you doing here?" Perrin ignored the question and joined Mallet at Call's side. Mallet had laid a hand over the crusted bandages, then glared up at Perrin. He said, "Can't you smell the rot? He's gone." He then frowned and leaned forward and said, "No, wait. Damn, I don't believe it." Mallet withdrew a spoon-shaped knife from his pouch and removed the bandages. He dug into the wound with the blade, then said, "Shedinul's mercy. Someone stuffed this with herbs." He then drove his fingers into the wound. Call jerked, then moaned. Mallet grinned and said, "Ha! That got you going, did it? Good." He felt around deeper in the wound and said, "This cuts halfway through the bone. Those damn herbs have poisoned his marrow. Who the hell treated this?" He looked accusingly at Perrin, who said, "I don't know." Mallet said, "All right, move back, everybody. Give me some room." A minute later, and this man would have been striding through Hood's gate. He placed a hand over the top of Call's chest and said, "And be glad I'm as good as I am." What amazing luck that they got there in time.
I know. This brings the question: in this world of the Malazan universe, or the world, whatever, is there any such thing as run-of-the-mill good luck, or is it all directed by Opon?
No, it can't all be directed by Opon. Can't
That's what
say
I would
more.
think. Right. Okay.
Whiskey Jack said, "Now, Captain?" Perrin walked over to the table and motioned for Whiskey Jack to join him. Perrin said, "First, has Adjunct Lorne contacted you yet?" He received a blank stare in response. Perrin said, "Good. I'm in time then." He looked up at Kalam, who now stood behind Whiskey Jack, and said, "You've been set up. The plan was to take the city, yes, but also to make certain you were all killed in the process." Whiskey Jack held up a hand and asked if Perrin and Tattersail had worked this out. Perrin closed his eyes for a moment, then said, "She's dead. Chasing Hairlock out on the Reeve plain. Tashrin got to her. It was also her intent to find you and tell you all that I'm telling you. I'm afraid I won't be her equal as your ally once the adjunct shows up, but at least I can prepare you somewhat." I think he's underselling his contribution here. Tattersail would be useless against Lorne's Odotarl sword. Lorne is a mage killer, after all.
Yeah, and I think if he feels this way because, like the rest of us, especially first-time readers, he's just getting his sea legs under him here. You know, he's just now kind of finally getting caught up and just feeling like, whoa, I am way behind the ball here. I am not qualified for this. It's like, qualified or not, buddy, you're here. You're on the job.
Right. Kalam said, "I don't like the idea of Opon's pawn supposedly helping us." Perrin nodded and said, "I have it on good authority that I'm not Opon's. That sword downstairs is, though. Your squad wizard should be able to confirm this." Whiskey Jack asked what the adjunct's plan was. Perrin said, "She'll have no trouble finding you. She has talent in that area. But I fear she's not the major threat. There's a Talan I mass with her. Maybe her mission is simply to lead him to you. Then he'll handle the rest. Kalam cursed and began pacing. He's from 7 cities. He knows about the Talan I mass.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Yeah. Whiskey Jack made a decision. He said, "The satchel, Corporal." Kalam frowned, then picked up Whiskey Jack's standard issue satchel and set it on the tabletop. Whiskey Jack pulled out an object wrapped in burgundy silk. When the cloth was removed, the twin yellowed bones of a human forearm were revealed. The elbow ends ball joints were bound together with verdigreed copper wire. The wrist ends were wrapped as well, but as a misshapen knife grip, beyond which protruded a serrated blade. Perrin asked what the object was, noting he had never seen one like it before. Whiskey Jack said, "Be surprised if you had. Back in the days of the Emperor, the inner ring of military commanders each possessed one of these, the booty of a looted K'chain Shemal tomb. It was the source of much of our success, Captain." Side note here, the K'chain Shemal have been mentioned once before in the book. We don't get much more of an explanation about them here. All we can say at this point is that they are an elder race, and we can't provide more information until later in the series.
Yep.
Whiskey Jack grasped the bones with both hands and drove the knife point into the table. A flash of white light erupted from the bones, then contracted to a swirl, spinning thread-like between them. Perrin heard a voice he recognized. High-Fist Dujek growled, "I was getting worried, Whiskey Jack." That's quite the arcane object, isn't it? It's very similar to the Palantiri in Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's very similar.
Yeah, and
Very,
we
very.
saw Saruman using one of those to communicate with Sauron in the movie, right?
Yeah, and I love it. And this is I was talking. This is an indelible image from the first read through. Is that thing? I don't know if we ever see these things again.
Yeah, I don't recall. Whiskey Jack said, "Unavoidable. We've had little to report until now, but I need to know the situation in Pale, High Fist." Dujek said, "You want an update before you spill the bad news, eh? Fair enough." Tayshran stumbling in circles. He was last happy when Bellerdan was killed along with Tattersail. 2 more of the old guard gone in one fell swoop. Since then, all he's got is questions. What game is Opan playing? Was there truly a clash between the Knight of Darkness and Shadow Throne? Did a soul-shifted puppet kidnap, torture, then murder a Claw officer in Nathalog? And what truths were revealed by the poor man? That's the first we've heard of Hairlock doing something like that, right?
Yes, and that is a horrifying thought, isn't it?
I don't even want to know what Hairlock did to that guy.
Yeah.
It's got to be bad.
Well, yeah. Well, as much as we don't like Mr. Clicky Feet, and then giving him superpowers on top of that, and then he's insane on top of that. Yeah, that's all a bad combination for that poor fella.
Yes, absolutely. Whiskey Jack said, "We were not aware that Hairlock had done that, High Fist." Dujek replied, "I believe you, Whiskey Jack. In any case, enough of the Empress's plans have been discovered, and, indeed, she seems convinced that the dismantling of my army will pull me back under her wing, in time to saddle me with the command of the 7 cities' garrisons and put a bloody stop to the rebellion that's brewing. She seriously miscalculated there. If only she'd paid attention to Talk the Younger's reports. Well, Lassine's intentions now seem to be riding on Adjunct Lorne and Onos Tulan. They've reached the Jaghut Barrow, Whiskey Jack. 7 cities, those troublemakers, always causing problems."
Yep. And I love how Dujek just gave the good hint about Talk the Younger's character. Really stand-up move from him there, too.
Oh, yeah. Talk the Younger was very valued.
Yes. Not seen as a regular Claw member. We know that because he was embraced by the group.
By the army, yes. The soldiers of the army accepted him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal. They wouldn't do that to the Claw, would they? I mean,
absolutely
to
not.
Someone, okay.
Yeah. When people say Claw, people are looking around, just checking behind them, make sure they're not going to get garroted by somebody.
And they're spitting on the ground, too.
Yes. Yeah.
About 8,000 guys, when there was the army that big, they're all spitting when they say that word clop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mallet joined them and met Kalam's stunned gaze. Neither of them had known Whiskey Jack was this informed. Perrin nodded to himself. Releasing the tyrant was happening after all. Dujek went on. "The Maranth Black are ready to march, but it's only for show, and to get them out of the city. So, what are we looking at, friend? The balance of the world is with you in Darujistan. If Lorne and Onos Tulan succeed in unleashing the tyrant on the city, you can be certain that you and your squad are intended to be on the casualty list. Closer to home, here's what you want. We're ready to move. Tayshrin himself will trigger events when he announces the disbanding of the bridge burners. The blind idiot. Now I'm waiting. Talk had also warned that the disbanding of the bridge burners would cause the army to rebel.
Yes, he did. Very astute eye on that one. That's what he did there. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I saw
I
it.
love you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I love Talk. I'm sure you know that. I love Talk's a favorite. He's a great guy.
Yes. Real stand-up dude.
Yeah.
Whiskey Jack said, "Hi, Fist. Captain Perrin's made it. He's sitting across from me right now. His story is that Opan's working through his sword, not him." Whiskey Jack met Perrin's gaze and said, "I believe him." Dujek addressed Perrin and asked if Talk was any help to him. Perrin winced and said, "He gave his life for this, High Fist. The puppet Hairlock ambushed us, tossed Talk into a rent or something." Dujek was silent for a moment. With a hoarse voice, he said, "I'm sorry to hear that, Captain. More than you know. His father, well, enough of that. Go on, Whiskey Jack." Talk the Elder. We will hear several mentions of him throughout the series.
Yeah, we will. Yes, we will.
Not much detail, though.
No, not enough.
Yeah, not enough for the way they build him up. Yeah.
Well, especially, it says a lot that his son is as stand-up as he is.
Mm-hmm.
We could assume that Talk the Elder is very much like his son is very much like his father, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Whiskey Jack said, "No success yet in contacting the local Assassins Guild, High Fist. We've mined the intersections, though. I'll be explaining everything to my men tonight. The question remains what to do about Captain Perrin." Dujek said, "Understood. Captain Perrin?" Perrin said, "Sir?" Dujek asked, "Have you come to any conclusions?" Perrin looked to Whiskey Jack, then said, "Yes, sir, I think so." Dujek asked what choice he would make. After running his hand through his hair and leaning back, Perrin said, "High Fist, Tayshrin killed Tattersail." He thought to himself that Tayshrin had failed, but for now he'd keep that secret to himself. Perrin went on. "The adjunct's plan included betraying her word to me, and probably killing me in the process. But, I admit, that's secondary to what Tayshrin did. Tattersail took care of me, and I her after that hound. It meant something, High Fist. So, I gather you intend to defy the Empress. But what then? Do we challenge the Empire's 100 legions with 10,000 men? Do we proclaim an independent kingdom and wait for Lysine to make an example of us? I need more details, High Fist, before I decide whether I join you. Because, sir, I want vengeance." Should I say, "I want vengeance"?
we need some more Clint. We need the Clint Eastwood.
Oh, that's
I
coming.
want vengeance. Yeah.
I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm planning
Right.
it out. Dujek said, "The Empress loses Genebacus, Captain. We've got the support for that. By the time the Malazan Marines arrive to reinforce the campaign, it'll already be over. The Crimson Guard won't even let them disembark. Expect Nathalog to rise up and Genebaris to follow. The Maranth Alliance is about to lose its punch, though I'm afraid I can't give you the details on that." That sounds like a hot mess for the Empire.
Yes, it does. Fighting too many wars on too many fronts.
Yeah. Dujek went on. "My plans, Captain? They might not make sense because I don't have time to explain, but we're readying ourselves to take on a new player in the game, someone completely outside all of this, and that someone is damn nasty. He is called the Panyan Seer, who even now prepares his armies for a holy war. You want vengeance? Leave Tayshrin to enemies closer to home. As for Lorne, she's all yours, if you can manage it. I can't offer you anything more, Captain. You can say no. Nobody will kill you for that." This mention of the Panyan Seer, this is yet another point of escalation. We'll get to the situation in Memories of Ice. It's beyond anything you can imagine right now.
Oh, I know it. I like seeing all this forecasting that Erikson does, laying out the groundwork for the whole series in a way that's it's like a decade before he finished writing. It's just so brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I miss these little, only on the close examination like you and I are doing do I spot these nuggets, but I completely forget about them by the time I get to the next chapter. But
Right.
when me and you talk about them, they stick with me so much better. And these little small, little brilliant things that we've seen hinted There's been so much hints of what's coming in this series.
Yeah.
It
That you
shocked
just kind of
me.
gloss over before. Yeah.
Yes. It's just like, what? Painted seer? What?
Yeah. Perrin told Dujek that he wanted to know when Tayshrin got his due. Dujek agreed. Perrin said, "Very well, High Fist. As far as this present situation is concerned, however, I'd rather Sergeant Whiskey Jack remained in command." Good choice.
Real good choice.
Dujek asked, "Whiskey Jack?" They could hear a grin in his voice. Whiskey Jack said, "Accepted." He smiled at Perrin and said, "Welcome aboard, Captain." I wonder what would have happened if Perrin hadn't offered command up to Whiskey Jack.
Well, I imagine a quiet visit from a very amazing ex-claw assassin now turned bridge burner.
A little garrote action.
Something. I would hope it'd be merciful and quick.
Yeah,
Anything. I would
yeah.
just hope it'd be nice and quick.
Dujek asked, "Enough?" Whiskey Jack said, "We'll speak again after it's all done. Until then, High Fist, success." Dujek said, "Success, Whiskey Jack." "Not good luck, I see."
This is kind of like a strange mirror to Rallick. Is the last chapter or the chapter before where I think it's last chapter where Rallick met with Circle Breaker. But when he's going in there, he's kind of nervous about who in the world this is. And one of them says something to Rallick and he goes, "Well, good luck." He goes, "Don't waste me luck."
Yeah.
Or something to that. It's almost to the same
Luck's
extent.
not free.
No,
right?
so these people just success. I like that. That's much better.
Yeah. Might start doing that.
I agree. I don't know. I'm not much of a believer in luck anyhow. So
Yeah, I know. But just changing out luck with that
success.
People are like, what? People are like So somebody says witness, and you say success.
Success.
Oh.
Witness.
Light...
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The threads of light faded on the mechanism. As soon as they were gone, Kalam dug into Whiskey Jack. He said, "You old bastard! Fiddler told me Dujek wouldn't hear any talk of revolt. Not only that, the High Fist told you to walk after this mission." Whiskey Jack shrugged. He removed the object from the table and said, "Things change, Corporal. When Dujek got the adjunct's word on next year's reinforcements, it became obvious that someone was ensuring that the Jenabakian campaign would end in disaster. Now, even Dujek won't tolerate that. Obviously, plans would have to be revised." This must have been what Dujek saw when he was speaking with Lorne and Pale. He made some tactical leap that she couldn't figure out.
Mm-hmm. Pulled a real through for Hawat there, didn't he?
Yeah, the eyes flickering. You know?
Yes. Computing. Sorry, for all you, in case that was the through for Hawat from the Dune Mentat assassin.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greats from Dune.
Yes.
Another great assassin character I love.
Mm-hmm. We didn't really get to see a lot of them assassinating people.
No assassinating work. That's more. And neither did Piter de Vries. He didn't do enough assassinating.
Yeah. Is that going in the horse?
I think it is assassinating. Yes, assassinating is now becoming is our own new word. Witness.
Yeah. Success. All right.
Okay, sorry. Oh.
Whiskey Jack turned to Perrin and said, "I'm sorry, Captain, but Lorne has to live." Perrin began to argue, but Whiskey Jack said, "She's on her way into the city, assuming that she and the IMAS succeed in freeing the Jaghut. The tyrant will need a reason to come to Darujistan, and we can only assume that somehow Lorne will be that reason. She will find us, Captain. Once that happens, we'll decide what's to be done with her, depending on what she tells us. If you challenge her openly, she will kill you. If necessary, she will have to die, but her demise will be subtle. Do you have any problems with any of this?" Perrin let out a long breath and asked, "Can you at least explain why you went ahead and mined the city?" Whiskey Jack stood and told him he would in a moment, then asked who the wounded man on the bed was. Mallet grinned at Perrin and said, "Not wounded anymore, just sleeping."
Nice.
That's good, yeah.
Yes.
Perrin rose and said, "In that case, I'll also explain everything. Just let me go downstairs and retrieve my sword." When he was at the door, he paused and asked Whiskey Jack, "One more thing. Where's your recruit? Sorry." Kalam said, "Missing. We know what she is, Captain. Do you?" Perrin said, "Yes." Then he thought, but she might not be what she once was, assuming Shadowthrone didn't lie. He considered relating that part of the story to them, then dismissed it. He couldn't be sure of the situation and thought it better to wait and see what happened. Lorne and Toole entered the burial chamber. It was a small, nondescript beehive tomb. The passageway leading up to it was only 4 feet high and sloped slightly downwards. That is claustrophobic. I would not enjoy that.
Nope. Well, I'd have to bend over. I couldn't. I'd have to sit down.
Yeah. You scoot on your butt all the way.
Yeah, pretty much.
The chamber's floor was made of packed earth, and in the center rose a circular wall of stones capped by a single massive lintel stone. Frost-covered objects lay on this flat surface. Toole turned to Lorne and said, "The object you seek is called a finest. Within it is stored the Jaghut tyrant's powers. It is perhaps best described as a self-contained Omtos Phalak warren. He will discover it is missing once fully awakened, and will unerringly hunt it down." Lorne asked what would happen while it was in her possession. Toole said, "Your Odotarl sword will deaden its aura. Not completely. The finest should not remain in your hands for long, adjunct." Lorne scanned the objects in front of her. She picked up a scabbarded knife and set it back down. Toole couldn't help her find the finest. She had to rely on her own senses, which had been honed through the unpredictability of the effects of Odotarl. A mirror set in an antler caught her eye. She reached for it, then hesitated. Just next to it, she saw a small, round object, almost lost among the frost. It lay upon a flap of hide. She frowned and picked it up. As the ice coating melted, she saw the object wasn't perfectly round. She polished the surface and studied it closely. Toole said, "I believe it is an acorn." Lorne nodded and said, "And it's the finest. What an odd choice." Toole shrugged and said, "The Jaghut are odd people." Lorne said, "Toole, they weren't very warlike, were they? I mean, before your kind sought to destroy them." Toole took some time to reply. He said, "Even then, the key lay in making them angry, for then they destroyed indiscriminately, including their own."
Wow.
Lorne shut her eyes for a moment, then pocketed the finest. She said, "Let's get out of here." Toole said, "Yes, adjunct, even now the Jaghut tyrant stirs." And thus the chapter ends.
Good chapter.
Yeah.
Really good chapter.
For standout moments, the timing of the convergence between Kalam, Perrin, and then Mallet and Call was cool.
Yes.
You know, they saved him just in time.
Just right at the edge there. I love that. They actually pulled him off the brink. It sounded like he had gone over the brink, and Mallet pulled him back.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was great. And I just love seeing Perrin step into the role of captain more. I just gives him the same, just feeling more confident. More, here we go. He's one of the boys. He's been invited in.
Right. Only to immediately have the rug pulled out from under him.
Right.
You know, where it's like, you know that thing that Dujek said you're going to get? You can't have it.
Right. I love that. And
yeah, I mean, he's got a reason, though. But, you know, I mean, from Perrin's point of view, he's like, what? You know, you just said.
I love that too. But the other thing I have from this same area is that I love that Bone Dagger conference call thingy. That's always
that's the Zoom of this
yes
of this universe. Yeah.
Oh,
I would classify that under arcane magics.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't even know if it's but that could change them all. Well, knowing what we know, that's almost, is it magics or is it technology?
There's no chemicals or moving parts.
That's true.
This is just, I think it's magics.
It's magics. I agree. High magics.
Yeah. The Panyan Seer's Holy War being referenced this early in the book. Thought that was really cool.
Yes. That caught me by surprise, all this forecasting that he does. Such a small statement, but talk about a big info bomb in this short statement. I mean, that's just, and I also enjoyed that moment where Perrin says something, "Can you at least explain why you mine the city?"
Yeah. I didn't really put this down here, but as I'm thinking about it, Dujek unraveling his plan of what is going on, you know, just the whole outlining of where they're at. That was really cool to see too.
Yes. And I guess this lets us know that we are going to be, starting putting the pedal to the metal here. Mm-hmm. As we get ready as we move to the end. And I also like the little reveal, that tiny little reveal from Toole about the Jaghut. Mm-hmm. The key was to aggravate them enough to come from you. It's kind of like Jimbo and Ned in South Park. Mm-hmm. Look out, Ned! It's coming right for you.
It's coming right for us. That was episode 3, I want to say. South Park.
That's real early.
Real early. Yeah.
Scuzzlebutt.
Wow, we're ending our episode with a South Park reference this week. Wonderful.
Okay.
You got any final thoughts there, Billy?
Kill me, Billy. No, great episode, man. Great time.
Yeah, good job tonight.
It's a good chapter.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.
We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.